On this episode of Growth and Diversity podcast, we speak with Jackie Morales, a highly regarded senior operations executive with 30 years of experience across insurance carriers and insurtech companies. She shares her insights on career growth as a female in what we've known as a male dominated industry. Jackie, welcome to the Growth and Diversity podcast. We're so happy to have you today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's exciting for me to be here today.
Well, I thank you. I know you've been traveling all over the place, and so we got you located in one location finally to do this, and I couldn't be more excited. I know we're gonna to go through a host of topics, and I'm really looking forward to exploring those there. For those that don't know Jackie, this is kind of interesting. So Jackie is one of those executives. Obviously being in the executive recruiting business, we're always looking for amazing talent, networking with executives, talking about business strategy and talent strategy and all those things. Jackie is one of those leaders, people, humans, whatever they want to frame it up, that constantly got referred to me, Jackie. I don't know if I've told you that or not. And so you're one of those connectors, one of those people that so many people look up to and look to and say, "Hey, have you talked to Jackie? Have you talked to Jackie?" And it wasn't, for you should talk to her about this role or that role. It was purely just she is a phenomenal leader and advocate of our industry, and you should get to know Jackie. And so you and I have talked now once or twice, and as soon as we chatted, I was like, "Oh my gosh, you have to be on this podcast." So again, I couldn't be more excited. But thank you, and I wanted to share that little tidbit for you.
Well, thank you. And it's always nice to know what people say about you when you're not around. So that's
That's
really
right.
great. And, it's also, this is really an industry of people helping people. So when people refer you over or say you need to talk to somebody, it's probably in a community of people who do that same thing, who help each other out.
I couldn't agree more. Well, I want to introduce you a little bit of what everyone can find online when they go look up Jackie. But then I want you to fill some of it. But if you look at Jackie's background, I mean, this is super impressive. She's been in the industry 30 plus years, and she's going to talk about that. But heads of life operations, chief operating officer, board of directors, chief insurance officer. So she's been on the carrier and the insurtech side. We're going to explore that today a couple times over and COO. So when you're looking at for someone that understands how the not only the industry I think works, especially in the life and annuity space, but also how the value chain of an insurance company operates from the consumer standpoint right to the shareholders. Quite impressive what you've done in your career. So tell us a little bit more about you, what we can't see on LinkedIn.
Yeah, well, I would tell you that I am married to the best man in the world. So that's number one.
That's fantastic.
I really grew up in a very modest place. I grew up on a farm in central Illinois and learned some really important values that really have helped me throughout my entire career. The value of working hard, doing the right thing when no one else is looking, and finding this industry the way I did. It really is a reflection of that because this is you sometimes stumble into an industry that you then realize that's where you're meant to be. And so, of all the jobs that I've had and all the career opportunities that I've been faced with, the thing that has held true, the string that is attached to all of those, is the fact that this is such an incredible industry and it brings so much value to the people it serves and also the people who are serving in it.
Right.
That for me, it's just a great, great place to be. Have met some of the best people in the world, have seen some of the best places in the world, and just have been so fortunate to be a part of people serving people industry.
It's I love that's amazing. You just framed up that people serving people. It's interesting. I grew up on the life and annuity side as well, so which I think majority of your background is. Um, but with you growing up on a farm, one of the things I didn't realize until probably just I guess becoming more absorbed in the industry and now being on this side and serving life and annuity and PNC is, you know, even from a farming standpoint, like farm and ranch insurance and how much the broader economy and just many different people. I thought, insurance was life insurance. And then you start
Mhm.
learning about all the different aspects. And so you probably saw it from very early on and maybe didn't realize that that's what it was, but your family, and the farm was always protected in case something happened. So it's kind of
Yeah.
interesting how it all comes together.
Well, and it's interesting too, if you think about insurance, anything that matters or anything you care about or anything that has value, there's an insurance for it. I can
Great
promise you
point.
that. So that's
Yeah.
really how you think about insurance too, is it's I've always said that insurance, I refer to it often as a noble industry. And what it is insurance is there when catastrophic things happen in your life. If you
Right.
think about health insurance, it's catastrophic illness and how to protect yourself from ruin in those situations, or help you through it, or help you find those cures. In property and casualty, catastrophic loss, natural disasters, fires, terrible things that could happen. Life, I hold life insurance near and dear to my heart because it really is the gift of love. When you buy a
Right.
life insurance policy, you will never be the person who benefits from it, but you're leaving that legacy of love to your family, friends, or whoever you care about. And you think about all the other types of insurance. Annuity, it's kind of the happy insurance. You give me money, I'm
Right.
going to give you more money, and you get to spend it while you're alive. So that's kind of a nice one too. But it's just really, if you think about it, the things that matter are worth insuring.
Yeah, that's oh gosh, so good. And I think if the what September is Life Insurance Awareness Month, and so we're quite a ways from that. But I think if they need a spokesperson, we may have a volunteer here because what you just said, I think you just nailed it. You could do that. Okay, so I want to go back to the beginning a little bit because what I think is very interesting for you when you look at your career is how you got into the insurance industry. So tell us, why? Why would you come to this and how did it happen? What was your first job?
When I was 5 years old, I wanted to be in insurance. No. Uh,
Says no one, right?
Yeah, right. The only people who purposely get into insurance are actuaries and underwriters, right?
Right.
So they're
Right.
they're looking for a career in that. And I actually stumbled into the industry. I was in the banking industry,
Okay.
and a good friend of mine had gone to work at an insurance company, and she said, "Hey, you should come over and hear an interview, and I think you'll really like it." And I was kind of like, I don't know about that. But, I got into the industry. I was managing a call center and a processing center, and really thought about it, liked what I was doing, liked working with people, both customers and employees and coworkers, and really said, you know what? This is a great place to be. I think I can do this, and I like it, and I seem to be good at it. And started out as a manager in a call center, and within a year and a half, I was vice president of the department.
Oh
Um,
wow.
and at that point, you don't really know what you've gotten into, but it was at that very first company. It was Americo Life,
Oh sure.
and I was in that job and was basically, I think I told you this earlier, Sean, which was I felt like I was sitting at my dad's desk when I got the job. I remember taking a picture and sending it to my dad, the farmer, and showing him that here his daughter was an executive in an insurance company. And we had a call from a customer, and it was a customer that had um, realized there was a miscalculation of a product.
Okay.
And of course, here I was going, "Oh gosh, what do I do with this?" Because I wasn't an actuary. I was, yeah,
Right.
yeah. And here I was sitting there going, "Okay, how am I going to do this?" So I study up on the product. He and his wife come in, sit down with me. I'd had people look at it, and sure enough, there was a problem on it, and we were able to solve that problem for him. And I felt proud, and he felt satisfied that was going to get resolution. We made sure everything was taken care of, and about a year and a half later, this is the lesson I learned about the importance of the industry I was in. I got a call from this customer, and he called me and he said, "Do you remember me?" And I said, "Of course I do." And he said, "I need your help." And first thing that came to my mind was, "Oh gosh, did we screw something up on it, or is there a problem with it?" And he said, "No." He said, "My wife has died, and I don't know what to do."
Oh no.
And here was this lovely couple. They'd been married more than 50 years when I met them. And he was struggling in this very difficult and fragile time in his life. And I guided him through the whole process of the claim and getting everything taken care of. And I realized he wasn't just a policy, that was a real life. That was a real person who
Right.
was, a would tell me wonderful stories about his wife, and I realized this is an important business, and I became so committed to that. I wasn't even quite 30 yet, and I
Yeah.
realized I needed to be in this business.
That is amazing. You were hooked from that standpoint. I
Yeah,
love that. More than a policy number. Like it's a real person. It's a real, with true feelings, with true emotions, with true pain. But
Yeah,
yeah, you're kind of coming in and being part of that journey now that that's going to take them. And that's wow, what a great story.
yeah,
I think that will beat any story that I ever make up about myself joining this industry. So great
yeah.
job.
And
That's
I would say
awesome.
at that point, I became a lifer.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. In the future, you went into the insurtech space. So not only are you a lifer, but that tells to me that you're also very open minded. You're very
Mhm.
willing to transform, to change, to innovate, to find new ways to do things. And quite frankly, I'm curious if some of that was grounded in you even remember what that process was like, and probably the claims process wasn't great. And right, it took a lot
Yeah,
of hand holding. And there's a lot of great innovation now. So talk about a little bit. You can take this where you want, but you've been on the carrier side and the insurtech side. And I often have people tell me, Shawn, I've been in the carrier side for 15, 20 years. I want to go be in an insurtech. And I'm like, well, let's talk about that. And then vice versa, the insurtech folks will say, I want to go be at a carrier. And I'm like, well, let's talk about that because
yeah,
they are different. And you've been able to successfully navigate both. So
yeah.
I would love to kind of hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, it was funny. I was presented with the opportunity to get into an insurtech, and I was COO of a insurance company on the East Coast. And we all would sit around at conferences with a glass of wine and talk about if we could redo the industry, we would do it a different way. And I had a call from a recruiter that was talking about this new company that was spinning up in Texas, and it needed somebody to come in as their chief insurance officer. And I kind of said, I don't know about that. And he then said, he called back about a week later and he said, "Give me 10 minutes and let me talk to you about this opportunity." And it was a company, I think I can share the name. Bestow
Hmm.
was the company.
Sure.
And they wanted to transform the industry. They were recognizing a lot of the problems that existed in the traditional carrier space, a lot of legacy drag, inability to pivot quickly, the need for consumers to have ready access, and especially those consumers who are at the lower socio-demographic level,
Right.
right? Everybody was doing what I refer to as the whale fishing. Let's go
Yeah.
after the big clients with high net worth, and there's nothing wrong with that. But there was also they saw the need for accessible insurance,
Yeah.
and I thought about it. I said, here I am sitting around these tables talking about how I would change the industry and make it better and different. And here I'm presented with this opportunity. If I don't do it now, I know I'm going to regret it. And I have something to say. I know what's broken because I had spent time in at that point I was with my fourth carrier, and I
Right.
had been fixing problems along the way. I was known as a fixer. I came in and fixed or transformed or solved problems with business and technology solutions. So for me, I was like, I need to put my money where my mouth is, and took that big leap. Here's the truth about insurtechs versus
Yeah.
carriers. There's some similarities and there's some big differences. Similarities: there's never enough time, there's never enough money, and there's never enough people. I don't care if you're in a multi-billion-dollar company or a startup.
Yeah.
The difference, though, is in startups, and having worked at two of them now, startups can think differently. They look at different ways to solve a problem, and they'll ask the curious question, the one that you've been told has already been answered 50 years before by
Right.
everybody else and every other carrier. They'll ask that curious question. They will make decisions more quickly, and they'll also pivot. When they see that something isn't working, they're not afraid to say, okay, that wasn't the right decision for us. Let's try something different. And they're willing to do that. And you learn to work in the business differently. It's set up differently. Solutions are found in different ways, and um, I think that's really fun. But you do have to realize that the best capability that you have, and which was something that I possessed, and a lot of others that can make that transition from carrier to startup, is I was a person who knew a lot about a lot. If you
Hmm.
were a person who is deeply siloed, and the carrier space rewards people who are an inch wide and a mile deep, that are
Right.
very deep experts in their space. I was one of those people that knew a lot about a lot, um, And so that really allowed me to be versatile. And most of the people who've made that pivot from the carrier to the startup have been those kind of people who've served in multiple roles, have done different things, and are open to try something different and realize that I don't care how long you've been in the industry, you don't know the answers, even if you think you know
Right.
the answer.
Right. Yeah, and there's this balance of risk and reward too, right?
Right.
And I think you have to be open to that with your career compensation, lots of different factors that come to that. But I love
Yeah.
I love the way that you framed that up because not a lot of people I think can successfully make that transition. Hey everyone, thanks for listening to this episode of Growth and Diversity Podcast. I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Mostra Coffee. That's MOSTRACOFFEE.com. Go to mostracoffee.com. Check out this woman, minority, veteran, immigrant owned micro coffee roaster out of North County, San Diego. They have amazing coffee. We're addicted to it. We've been drinking it for years in our house, and I hope you get to enjoy it in yours. There's a coupon code as being a part of the Growth and Diversity Podcast listening audience. You can enter Brown Davis 10 and the coupon code once you go to checkout, and you'll receive 10% off. And the other thing that I would say, and I'm curious on your take on this, um, not a lot, not from just the talent side, a lot of companies can't make that transition, meaning that they're not open to bringing in someone with a history and track record of success like yours, right? They would say, "Oh, she's part of the problem. She's only been in these massive, huge companies. She has no idea how to work at a start." Like I hear this all the time,
Yeah.
and I would be happy to go to Vegas with you and bet on you of going and working in another insurtech and being massively successful, because it's not a one size fits all. So it was also a big positive that they had an open mind to
Yeah.
say we don't know everything, and we do think there's some things broken, but as we all know, the insurance is very complicated for many good reasons and sometimes not great reasons. And you need someone with some expertise that actually knows how to navigate to help. So it's it may not
Yeah.
be a unicorn, but it's pretty darn close.
Well, thank you for that. I like unicorns. I'd like to be a
Yeah,
unicorn.
there you go.
And that's the thing is too, is because problem solving, people always say, "What's the solution?" And my answer is there's multiple solutions. It's on I refer to it like Google Maps. If you
Yeah,
start with what the where you're starting from, which is where the problem is, and you're talking about, I need to get to this solution, Google Maps will show you multiple routes to get there. So there are usually multiple solution sets to get to something, to fix something. And so
right.
you have to keep your open mind, and you also can't take no for an answer. You know, sometimes you get blocked on this solution. Okay, let's think about the alternative. Or what if we tried it like this? And it is about keeping an open mind. And I think where you've seen the startups were at one end and the carriers were at the other. At the very beginning, the startups were like, "Oh, the carriers are stupid. It's an irrelevant industry. You know, we're all dinosaurs and we're all going to die like they did." And the carriers were like, "Oh, the insurtechs are so cute. Aren't they clever?" And then this crazy thing called COVID came, and that
Right.
digitization, that full digitization that took place in the insurtechs proved itself out in a very short time frame and
Yeah.
said, the way you do things, you don't have time anymore. The change is now, and you've better figure out how to make things work differently, solving the same problem of protection and, taking care of people. But
Right.
you've got to get, I mean, how are you going to get there if you don't have, it's almost like saying, okay, you have to get to this place, but you don't have a car. Oh gosh,
Right.
how can I get there now? And so I think the industry is now kind of coming closer and closer. And you're also seeing through the most recent economic dip that we had, you've seen that kind of convergence of insurtech and carrier. Some are joining forces, partnering. Some are being purchased and
Right.
acquired by carriers. And it's there's all kinds of different relationships being built that no one would have thought of 6, 7, 8 years ago.
Agree. Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. I think we had this InsurTech 1.0, and then I think the 2.0 happened, and all
Yeah.
of a sudden then it was kind of like a good idea to talk about profitable growth and not just growth on a PowerPoint deck. That was a good idea. It raised all kinds of money. And I think to your point now, there's a convergence happening that's probably going to create this 3.0.
Yeah,
Um, and it's going to be a lot closer than people realize. Where at first it was kind of like, oh, to your point, we're growing away, but kind of together, but we're all still in the same industry. And now I think there's some convergence happening. So I think
yeah,
that's well said. I'm going to flip the conversation a little bit to, of course, the name of the podcast, but we've already hit on it a little bit with the diversity of your career. And I
yeah,
think when you and I were talking about the idea of doing this together, we instantly got into it around just diversity, not meaning age, sex, whatever it may be, race, all these other things. And so I want to ask you, what does diversity mean to you when we think about it, and especially as you've seen in your career?
yeah. It is very, very interesting because all those things that you talked about, diversity is it's about gender and it's age and it's race and it's ethnic backgrounds and religious backgrounds. But I think one of the most challenging areas of diversity, because it doesn't get much attention and it doesn't really get talked about all that much, is diversity of thought.
Right.
Um, I think there's an ease in this industry, especially of groupthink. um,
Yeah.
you get into a place or a company or a department or a division of your company, and suddenly the person who asks the difficult question is seen as a problem versus seen as maybe flagging up something that wasn't thought about or something that wasn't considered or a potential roadblock down the way. Sometimes you
Right.
don't think about things, or when you come up with an idea or a vision, it's one of those things that's met with, "Oh yeah, that's a great idea." And sometimes it's unfortunately, sometimes if the boss comes up with a great idea, then everybody feels they have to fall in line. And I think
Right.
it's important that you have to be able to embrace and accept and be open to that diversity of thought, of opinion, of the diversity of how you go about solving to those problems, and being able to even in some situations agree to disagree on things but still respect one another.
Yeah.
And there's no legal requirement around that, where there might be around other forms of diversity.
Right.
And I also think that one of the things that we also have to be very, very mindful of is, as we're hiring people, as we're hiring managers,
Yeah.
making sure that we don't hire the person we might be most comfortable with because we might relate to them subconsciously. But think
Yeah.
about people from different geographical areas, think about people with different backgrounds. There are a lot of companies that will look to different industries to bring in leaders because they're trying to look for different ways of thinking. And so being open to those, and as you come in, because I've been that leader coming in sometimes, is being open as you come into the skepticism,
Mhm.
the fact that you can't just come in and say, "This is who I am and you need to accept me," but also there's a mutual respect element that's super important. Respect the business that they're in. They need to respect the background and experience that you bring. And then realize that, again, if you can have conversations, if you can exchange ideas, if you can tell each other stories, and then solve problems together, it can really take that diversity, and you're teaching them and they're teaching you along that way. And it can
Yeah.
make for some really fun opportunities.
I think that's phenomenal. I think that your career, I'm sure you've seen just so many different examples of that. So I love the whole diversity of thought concept. And I think seeing you rise through your career, it's hopefully it's inspiring to a lot of other female leaders just from that standpoint, but also or just people that want to grow their career, but also just hearing and seeing your track record of success and moving through the different levels and achieving such, I think, career success at an early stage. And you kept going and getting new and different opportunities. And quite frankly, I think probably I'm guessing a lot of that was to not just because, right, you check the box on being a female leader in insurance, but your diversity of thought, that you had an opinion, you were willing to share your opinion, but you're also willing to listen to others, and be very open minded.
Well, absolutely. And one of the things I think was really interesting, I didn't really realize I was a female leader until probably, a decade ago.
Right.
Because I grew up on a farm, we were hands in the field. It wasn't about you were a female and you did this job or you were a male and you did this job. We were all out in the field working together. So for me, I always thought that if I was a hard worker and I committed to something and I worked with integrity, that that was enough. And unfortunately, there is still some bias out there, and it is
Yeah.
a heavily male dominated industry. But I now have taken a very strong stance, and I participate in a lot of there are a lot of women in insurance who are gathering together to help the next decade and generation of female leaders coming forward in this industry. Here's what I think about this industry. If you go back to the beginnings of the most modern industry, I mean, you're going back 400 years, right? This industry of insurance was created to protect women and children from catastrophic loss, right? If you go way back, if you talk to these
Mhm.
companies, they'll say we started out because we were trying to protect firefighters' wives from loss if their husbands died.
Sure.
And the world has changed dramatically, but I think about this industry, if you think about it, it was an industry that was created for women. And so what more important than to have
Wow.
women in leadership roles bringing forward the importance of protection, the importance of taking care of the things that you love, of being there to protect for the future. And you know, I also think about it in a way that uh, I really get sad when I hear CEOs when you ask them a question and you ask them, what's the purpose of your company? What's the mission and vision of your company? And a CEO will say, increase shareholder value. It's probably not a company I want to work for because to me, when a company says we're here to protect the millions of people who come to us every day seeking that umbrella, that trust, that capability, that commitment, that contract to protect, shareholder value will come if you take care of your customers, and it will also come if you take care of your employees.
Right.
And so
Agree.
I don't want to be part of a company that's increasing shareholder value. I want to be part of a company that cares about its customers and is going to be there when times are really hard.
Yeah. Awesome. And like you said, the byproduct of that will be that the shareholder value will grow
It will.
through by taking care of the people. I just wrote down hands in the field. I love that concept. You mentioned that to me. I think one of the first times we talked, and it is you're like it didn't matter. It was hands in the field. Work had to be done,
Yeah.
and I couldn't think of a better. We all hear about the all hands on deck or whatever it may be, and I actually have never really thought about that in terms of diversity. Right? It was more like, hey, roll your sleeves up, and we all got a bunch of work to do, and all hands on deck. But it was like no one cares what the hands are. We
Yeah.
need hands in order
Yeah.
to get the work done. And
Well, and
that's
I would tell
phenomenal.
you this too. I'm one of those leaders too that I'm not afraid to do the work. I've done the work and I will
Right.
do the work. One of our common friends, David O'Leary, is the same kind of leader, and I was fortunate enough to work for him for a few years. And he's the same kind of guy. He's going to dig in. He's going to ask the questions. He's going to be there. He's going to be part of the solution. He's going to help you. And so these are the kind of people throughout my life who have made a huge impression on me. And those are the people. Those are the bosses you emulate. Those
Yeah.
are the people that you want to be. I want to be the kind of leader, the good leader that I have had for me and do whatever they did and do it more. And the bad leaders that I've had, and I've had a couple, those are the people I'm never going to do the things that they did because I know how it impacted me and I'm never going to
Right.
be that person.
Phenomenal. Well, I think this will be a great example. I think that's really cool about the modern technology of hopefully this and other people seeing it right is you are no doubt not only a good leader, a great leader from everything that I've seen in the interactions that I've had. So I think hopefully there's just nuggets of information here that people are going to be able to take away. I know that you give more to the industry as much as possible. Like you said, you're on other podcasts, you're in forums. If people reach out, you're phenomenal to
Yeah.
help and support people as they grow their careers. So I think you and I could go on for hours. I don't want to take
Her
up
too.
your entire day, but maybe we'll do a round two in the future. And I think we'll have to have David O'Leary on. Maybe the three of us will do one. That would just be an absolute
I
blast.
would
He's a
love
great
that.
mentor to me as well. So Jackie, it has been an honor to have you. Thank you for joining me today on this episode. And thanks everyone out there for joining in on Growth and Diversity with Jackie Morales, Senior Operations Executive Industry Advocate, and just good human, just a great person. So thank you, Jackie. Can't wait to have you on again.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.